I didn't know the first thing about the lingo of drag racing. No, I was 18 years old. My life at that point had been, I was accepted to Westchester State.
Do you remember when racing wasn't just about winning, but about putting on a show? When the ground shook beneath your feet, engines screamed through the air, and every run felt like a moment you'd never forget. That was the world where Jungle Pam Hardy became unforgettable. Standing beside the fearless and unpredictable Jim Liberman, she didn't just witness drag racing's wildest era, she helped define it. Together they were more than a team. They were an experience, a spectacle, a story that fans couldn't get enough of. But behind the excitement, behind the roaring crowds and flashing cameras, there was something else building quietly in the background. Because not every fast life has a smooth road. This is the heartbreaking life and the tragic end of Jungle Pam. Before the fame, before the nickname, before the cameras followed her every move, Pamela Hardy was living a life that couldn't have been more different. She was a college student, focused, grounded, living in a small town where nothing moved too fast and nothing ever felt out of control. There was no sign that she would one day become a symbol of one of the most chaotic eras in motorsports. And then everything changed in a moment. It was 1972. A car pulled up beside her, low, loud, impossible to ignore. The rumble of the engine caught her attention first, but when she looked over, she saw someone she wouldn't forget. Long hair, a confident smile, a presence that felt larger than life. It was Jim Liberman, already making waves in the drag racing world as Jungle Jim. He wasn't just known for speed, he was known for style, for breaking rules, for turning every race into something people would talk about long after it ended. He didn't just race cars, he entertained crowds, and when he spoke to Pam, he didn't talk about limits. He talked about freedom, about the road, about a life where every day felt like something new. Somewhere in that moment, he made her an offer. Come with me. For most people, it would have sounded reckless, unrealistic, even dangerous. Pam had no experience in racing, no connection to that world, no reason to believe she belonged in it. But there was something about Jim that made everything feel possible. Within days, she made a decision that would change her life forever. She left college behind. She stepped away from everything familiar, and she followed him into a world that never slowed down. What she entered wasn't just a sport, it was a lifestyle. Drag racing in the early 1970s was raw, loud, unpredictable. Tracks filled with smoke, engines echoing endlessly, and crowds that came not just to watch, but to feel the energy. It was intense, and it was dominated by men. Drivers, mechanics, crew members, almost everyone on the track fit the same mold. And then there was Pam. She didn't try to blend in. She didn't need to. With her long dark hair, natural confidence, and calm presence, she stood out the moment she arrived. At first, she wasn't the center of attention. She was just helping Jim and his crew, learning the rhythm of race days, understanding how everything worked. But in Jim's world, helping meant everything. She checked equipment, prepared the car, supported him at the starting line. She became part of the process that kept everything running smoothly. And slowly, people began to notice. It started with glances, then curiosity, and before long, fascination. There was something about her presence that couldn't be ignored. It wasn't just her looks. It was how effortlessly she carried herself in a world that wasn't built for her. She looked like she belonged, even when she didn't. Fans began watching her just as closely as they watched the races. Cameras followed her movements. Photographers captured her standing beside Jim's car, calm and composed while chaos unfolded around her. And that's when the name stuck. Jungle Pam. It wasn't just a nickname, it was an identity. Magazines picked up on her quickly. Photos of her began appearing in racing publications, often right beside Jim. But what drew people in wasn't just the image, it was the energy she brought with it. In a sport driven by horsepower and noise, Pam brought personality. She made the experience feel different, more alive. And together, she and Jim became something special. He was wild, unpredictable, always pushing limits. She was steady, confident, magnetic in a quieter way. And that contrast made them unforgettable. Every time they showed up at a track, the energy shifted. Fans gathered, cameras clicked. There was a sense that something exciting was about to happen, even before the engine started. Their connection wasn't just for show. They were close, inseparable, living a life that moved faster than most people could imagine. In what felt like no time at all, Pam had gone from a small-town student to one of the most recognized faces in motorsports. But fame has a way of changing things. And sometimes, it reveals sides of life you weren't prepared for. Because behind the excitement, there was another reality. One that didn't show up in photos, one that fans didn't see. Life with Jim wasn't just thrilling, it was exhausting. He lived every day like it was a race, always chasing the next moment, the next crowd, the next rush of adrenaline. And while that energy made him unforgettable on the track, it made life off the track unpredictable. The schedule never slowed down. Event after event, city after city, thousands of miles on the road. Days blurred together, nights were spent in motels. The noise of engines never really left, even when everything went quiet. For Pam, what once felt exciting began to feel overwhelming. The constant movement, the lack of stability, the feeling that life was always on the edge of something. And yet, she stayed, because she loved him. But loving someone like Jim meant accepting a life that never stood still. He could be warm and charming one moment, then distant the next, always thinking about the next race, the next performance, the next way to stay on top. Racing wasn't just his passion, it was everything. And as their fame grew, so did the pressure. The spotlight made their lives look perfect, but behind it, things were becoming more complicated. The same fire that made them exciting was slowly becoming the thing that made everything harder. And neither of them realized just how quickly things could change, because the road they were on was leading somewhere neither of them expected. By the mid-1970s, Jungle Pam Hardy and Jim Liberman had become larger than life. They weren't just part of drag racing, they were its heartbeat. Every appearance felt like an event. Fans didn't just come to watch the races, they came to see them, to feel that energy, that chemistry, that sense that anything could happen. But behind the scenes, life was becoming harder to hold together. The constant travel had taken its toll, the exhaustion, the pressure to stay relevant, the need to keep performing, no matter how tired they were. Jim never slowed down. If anything, he pushed harder. He took bigger risks, drove faster, performed wilder stunts. The same fearless attitude that made him famous was also putting him closer to danger every single day. And Pam could feel it. There was a growing sense that something wasn't right, that the pace they were living at couldn't last forever. But when you're caught in a life moving that fast, it's hard to stop. It's hard to even imagine slowing down. Then, everything changed. In September 1977, tragedy struck. Jim Liberman was driving his Corvette when he lost control. The crash was sudden, violent, and final. Just like that, the man who had lived his life at full speed was gone. The news hit the racing world like a shockwave. Fans couldn't believe it. The same person who had seemed untouchable, unstoppable, was suddenly gone. And for Pam, everything stopped. In a single moment, the life she had built around him, the world she had stepped into, the future she had imagined, all of it changed. There were no more races together, no more road trips, no more moments at the starting line. Just silence. The spotlight that once followed her everywhere now felt different, heavier, colder. Because without Jim, nothing felt the same. For many, it seemed like the end of an era. And in many ways, it was. Pam had a choice to make. She could stay in that world, continue being part of the racing scene, hold on to the identity she had built. Or she could walk away. And she did something that surprised many people. She stepped back, quietly, without trying to hold on to the fame, without trying to recreate what had been lost. Because for her, it was never just about the spotlight. It was about him. Pam chose a different kind of life. One that was slower, more private, more grounded. She eventually built a new path for herself, even working with animals and pursuing a career that couldn't have been more different from the chaos of drag racing. It was a complete contrast to the life she once lived. But maybe that was the point. Because some experiences change you in ways that never fully fade. Even years later, people still remembered her. The girl with the long dark hair standing beside a roaring car. The calm presence in the middle of chaos. The symbol of an era that would never come back. But what many didn't fully understand was the cost of that life. The emotional weight of losing someone who had been at the center of everything. The quiet moments after the noise fades, when you're left with memories that feel both beautiful and painful at the same time. Pam rarely sought the spotlight again, and when she did speak about those years, there was always a sense of reflection, not regret, but understanding. Because she had lived a life most people could only imagine, a life filled with excitement, risk, love, and loss. And while the world may remember Jungle Pam as an icon of drag racing's golden age, her story is more than just fame. It's about taking a chance on something unknown. It's about loving someone who lives without limits. And it's about learning, sometimes the hard way, that not every fast life has a safe ending. The tragic end of that chapter didn't just close a story. It left behind a legacy. A reminder of the time when racing was wild, when personalities were larger than life, and when one woman, without ever planning it, became unforgettable. Because Jungle Pam wasn't just part of history, she helped create it. And even now, her story still echoes through the roar of engines and the memories of those who were there to see it.